Picture this, a 30-year-old man sits motionless in his wheelchair, completely paralyzed from the shoulders down. He can't move his arms, can't wiggle his fingers, can't even shrug his shoulders, but on the screen in front of him, a cursor dances across a digital chessboard with lightning precision. He's not using a mouse, he's not using voice commands, he's moving that cursor with nothing but his thoughts. His opponent, the chess computer that just got demolished, is rated higher than most club players. The paralyzed man just pulled off a queen's gambit that would make Beth Harmon jealous. And here's the kicker, he's doing it at speeds that would make your trackpad jealous. 8 bits per second of pure brain-to-computer bandwidth. Folks, this isn't science fiction. This isn't some movie trailer for the next Matrix sequel. This is happening now, in real life. That chess player I just mentioned, his name is Nolan Arbor, and he's one of the first humans on Earth with a next-generation brain implant from Neuralink. But here's what's really wild. He's not alone anymore. As we're recording this, there are people with brain chips from at least 4 different companies. We've got paralyzed patients able to convert 78 words per minute using BCI-mediated speech decoding. We've got stroke victims recovering motor function at rates that make traditional physical therapy look like the Stone Age. And get this, the global brain-computer interface market has exploded from $2.1 billion in 2023 to nearly $5 billion, projected at the end of 2025. That's not just growth, that's a revolution happening in real time. But why should you care? Well, let me ask you something. Have you ever known someone who had a stroke? Someone with ALS? Someone who was paralyzed from an accident? In the US alone, we're talking about 5.4 million people living with paralysis. 2 million who can't speak due to various conditions. Millions more recovering from strokes every single year. Now imagine if we could give them their lives back. Not in some distant sci-fi future, but right now. Welcome to Apprentice.io's Industry Insights. I'm Frank Maggiore, and today we're diving deep into the technology that's literally rewiring what it means to be human. We're talking about brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, and trust me, what's happening right now is going to blow your mind. Pun absolutely intended. We're going to explore how this technology actually works, and I promise to keep it simple enough that you won't need a neuroscience degree to follow along. We'll meet the companies racing to put computers in our brains, including why Elon Musk's Neuralink is just one player in a much bigger game. We'll hear incredible stories from real patients whose lives have been transformed, like the woman with ALS who can now have actual conversations with her family, when before she could barely manage one word every few minutes. Or the guy who's been using his brain implant for 6 years and describes it as the coolest video game he's ever played. We're also going to tackle the ethics around this technology, since it raises some seriously mind-bending questions. When we enhance human cognition, who decides what's treatment and what's augmentation? What happens when your thoughts can be hacked? And here's the big one. Are we on the verge of creating a world where those who can afford brain upgrades have an insurmountable advantage over those who can't? Plus, I'll explain why cloud-based manufacturing execution systems is going to be absolutely critical for making these devices safe, trackable, and available to everyone who needs them. Because it's one thing to make a brain implant in a lab, it's another entirely to manufacture millions of them with 0 defects when a software glitch could literally mess with someone's mind. We're about to take a journey into technology that's not coming someday. It's here, it's now, and it's about to change everything we thought we knew about human cognition. Whether you're a healthcare professional, a tech enthusiast, or just someone who's curious about the future, this technology may reshape how you think about what it means to be human in the 21st century. And if that doesn't get your neurons firing, well, maybe you need one of those chips too. Let's dive in. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty here. How the heck does a computer read your mind? I mean, thoughts aren't like files on a hard drive, right? You can't just plug in a USB cable to your brain and download your memories. Or can you? Well, not quite, but it's closer than you might think. And to understand how this works, we need to talk about the most basic unit of your brain, the neuron. Picture a neuron like a tiny biological battery. When you think about moving your hand, millions of these neurons fire off electrical signals. We're talking about 100 microvolts, which is about 1,000,000 times weaker than a AA battery. But here's the cool part. Each neuron has its own unique firing pattern, like a Morse code that says, move index finger, or think about pizza. Now, brain-computer interfaces are basically super sophisticated eavesdropping devices. They sit on or in your brain and listen to these electrical conversations. The invasive ones, And yeah, that means surgery can pick up individual neurons chattering away. We're talking about sampling rates of 30,000 times per second. That's like taking 30,000 photos every second of your brain's electrical activity. And here's where things get really sci-fi. The raw signals coming out of your brain, they're messier than a teenager's bedroom. You've got electrical noise from your heartbeat, from muscle movements, from that fluorescent light buzzing overhead. So the first job is cleanup, filtering out all the junk to find the pure thought signals. Once we've got clean signals, we need to decode them. And this is where artificial intelligence comes in clutch. Remember when I said each neuron has its own Morse code? Well, imagine trying to decode millions of Morse code messages, all happening at the same time, while they're constantly changing based on what you're thinking. It's literally impossible for humans to do this in real time. But AI eats this pattern recognition for breakfast. We're using the same type of deep learning that powers ChatGPT, except instead of predicting the next word in a sentence, it's predicting what movement you're trying to make. Convolutional neural networks look for spatial patterns, like which areas of your brain light up when you think, move cursor left. Recurrent networks track how these patterns change over time. And get this, the newest systems use transformer models. Yes, the same transformers that power large language models. Turns out, the architecture that's good for understanding human language is also pretty damn good at understanding the language of neurons as well. Who'd have thought it? Now there's basically 3 flavors of BCIs, and each has its own pros and cons. First up, we've got invasive BCIs. These bad boys go right into your brain tissue. Sounds scary, I know, but they give you the best signal quality. It's like the difference between listening to a concert from inside a venue versus standing outside in the parking lot. Neuralink, BlackRock, Paradromics, they're all in this camp. The downside? Well, brain surgery is kind of a big deal. Drilling into your skull isn't exactly easy or risk-free. Then you've got partially invasive systems. These sit under your skull, but on top of your brain, not inside of it. Think of it like putting a microphone on the stage, but not right inside the piano. You get good quality without poking holes inside your actual brain tissue. That's what Synchron does. They thread the device through your blood vessels, so it sits against your brain. Clever, right? Finally, there's non-invasive BCIs. These are like wearing a really sophisticated hat covered in sensors. No surgery required, which is great, but the signal quality is like trying to hear a conversation through a concrete wall. Fine for simple stuff, not so great when you need precision. But here's the really mind-blowing part, and I mean that literally. The newest BCIs don't just read your brain, they're bidirectional. They can write back. Imagine getting sensory feedback directly to your brain. You think about grasping a cup, a robotic hand grabs it, and then sensors in the robotic fingers send signals back to your brain so you can actually feel the cup. We're literally creating a closed loop between brains and computers. Your brain sends a command, the computer executes it, and then sends feedback directly to your sensory cortex. It's not quite the Matrix yet, but we're getting there. The whole system has to work in under 100 milliseconds. That's faster than a blink of an eye. Any slower, and your brain gets confused, like when the audio doesn't match to the video on a badly synced movie. All of this is happening on a device smaller than a stack of quarters, running on less power than your smartwatch. The data rates are insane too. Neuralink is pushing 6.4 megabits per second wirelessly. That's enough bandwidth to stream music directly into your brain. Though, I'm not sure I'd recommend that just yet. Someone would end up playing Baby Shark on loop constantly. So that's the science in a nutshell. We're intercepting your brain's electrical signals, using AI to decode them faster than you can think, and creating a seamless bridge between your biological computer and digital ones. And while it's easy to get lost in the black mirror of it all, let's not forget, the goal of BCI isn't just control, it's connection. Alright, now that you know how these brain chips work, let's talk about who's actually making them. Because contrary to what the media might have you believe, this isn't just the Elon Musk show. In fact, some of these companies have been at it since before Tesla even made its first car. Let me paint you a picture of the BCI landscape. It's like the early days of the space race, except instead of reaching for the stars, we're reaching into the most complex object in the known universe, the human brain. And just like the space race, we've got multiple players with radically different approaches. Let's start with the big kahuna, Neuralink. Love him or hate him, you gotta give Elon credit for putting BCIs on the map. Their N1 device is like the iPhone of brain implants. Sleek, wireless, and packed with more tech than seems possible. Picture this, 3,072 electrodes on ultra-thin polymer threads, each thread thinner than a human hair. These threads are so delicate that they had to build a custom robot just to insert them without damaging your brain. It's like threading 3,000 needles at once, except the fabric is your cerebral cortex, and you really, really don't want to miss. As of right now, Neuralink has 3 humans with their chips implanted, and they're planning to implant 20 to 30 more within a year. The first patient, Nolan, who I mentioned earlier, even after 85% of his electrode threads retracted, yeah, that happened, the software adapted, and his performance actually improved. It's like the device learned to do more with less. That's some next level engineering. But here's what kills me. Everyone acts like Neuralink invented this field. Nope. Let me introduce you to the OG of brain interfaces, BlackRock Neurotech. These guys have been implanting BCIs since 2004. That's right, they were putting chips in brains when Facebook was still just for college kids. BlackRock's Utah array is like the reliable Toyota Camry of BCIs. It's not as flashy as Neuralink, but it's been proven in dozens of patients over 2 decades. We're talking about people who have been using these things for 6, 7, or even 8 years straight. Their patients have controlled robotic arms, typed messages, and even played musical instruments. And get this, BlackRock just scored a $200 million investment from Tether. Yeah, the cryptocurrency folks. That's a massive vote of confidence, and it means they're shifting from government grants to serious private capital. Their Move Again system already has an FDA breakthrough device designation. They could be in your local hospital sooner than you think. Now, if Neuralink is the iPhone and BlackRock is the Camry, then Synchron is the Tesla of BCIs, and I mean that in the best way possible. These innovators figured out how to implant a BCI without cracking open your skull. Their Stentrode device is delivered through your blood vessels. They snake it up through your jugular vein until it sits right against your motor cortex. It's like cardiac stent surgery, but for your brain. 10 patients across the US and Australia are already using it. And here's the kicker. In 2024, they integrated it with Apple's Vision Pro. We're talking about controlling augmented reality with your thoughts. Tony Stark would even be jealous. But wait, there's more. Enter Paralysis, the speed demons of the BCI world. These guys claim up to 40,000 recording channels. For context, that's like going from standard definition to 8K Ultra HD overnight. The catch? You need a separate wireless transmitter implanted into your chest. It's like having a relay station for your thoughts. Paralysis just entered the FDA's Total Product Lifecycle Advisory Program. In plain English, they're on the fast track for human trials in 2025. And with that kind of bandwidth, they could theoretically transmit entire sensory experiences, not just motor commands. We've also got Precision Neuroscience, founded by one of Neuralink's co-founders who jumped ship. Their Layer 7 system is like a band-aid for your brain, a thin, flexible array that conforms to your brain's surface. It's less invasive than drilling holes and more precise than external sensors. And here's something cool, there are new players entering the game with totally different angles. Motif Neurotech is going after depression and mood disorders. Intercosmos is developing a digital pill for depression that sits under your scalp. Forest Neurotech is working on holographic brain imaging. It's like everyone suddenly realized the brain is the next frontier. The competition is fierce, and that's exactly what we need. Each company is pushing the others to innovate faster, make devices smaller, increase battery life, improve biocompatibility. It's capitalism at its finest, except the prize isn't just money, it's giving people back their lives. What really gets me excited is that these aren't just slight variations on the same theme. Each approach has fundamental advantages. Neuralink's threads can hit precise neurons. Synchron avoids brain surgery entirely. BlackRock has 2 decades of safety data. Paralysis offers bandwidth that could enable things we haven't even imagined yet. In 5 years, your neurologist might offer you a menu of options, like, would you prefer the minimally invasive endovascular approach, or are you okay with surgery for better resolution? It's like choosing between contacts and laser eye surgery, except for your brain. The race is on, folks, and the winners, that'll be the millions of people whose lives are about to change for the better. Okay, enough about the tech companies and their fancy gadgets. Let's talk about what really matters, the people whose lives are being transformed right now. Because I can throw statistics at you all day, but nothing hits home like hearing from somebody who woke up paralyzed and is now kicking ass at video games with their brain. Let me tell you about Nolan Arbaugh. This dude was 22 years old, working as a summer camp counselor, when a freak swimming accident changed everything. He dove into a lake, hit his head, and boom, paralyzed from the shoulders down. 1 second, you're a healthy young guy ready to take on the world. The next, you can't even scratch your own nose. For 8 years, Nolan was locked in his own body. Then, January 2024, he becomes Neuralink's first human patient. And here's what blows my mind. Within weeks, this guy is setting world records for cursor control speed. 8 bits per second. That's not just moving a cursor, that's precision control that most people can't achieve with a mouse. But here's the real kicker. Remember I mentioned that 85% of his electrode threads retracted? That should have been game over, right? Wrong. The AI adapted, the software compensated, and Nolan's performance actually improved. He's now playing Civilization 6 for 8 hours straight. And if you've ever played Civ, you know that's barely enough time to finish the ancient era. He's learning French through Duolingo. He's playing chess at a level that would humble most casual players. And get this, he's planning to go to law school. This is a guy who couldn't move anything below his shoulders, and now he's preparing for a career that requires massive amounts of reading and writing, all through thought control. When asked about the experience, Nolan said something that gave me chills. It's like using the Force. I mean, come on. We're literally living in Star Wars times, people. But Nolan's not the only success story. Let me introduce you to Dennis DeGray, who might be the most experienced cyborg on the planet. This guy's been using a brain gate implant for almost 6 years. 6 years. That's longer than most people keep their phones. Dennis was paralyzed in a fall, and he described using his BCI as the coolest video game I've ever gotten to play. But he's not just playing games, he's typed thousands of words, controlled robotic arms, and even flew a drone through an obstacle course using nothing but his thoughts. The researchers had to ask him to slow down because he was completing their experiments too quickly. Now, let's talk about someone who really tugs at the heartstrings, Pat Bennett. Pat has ALS, that horrible disease that slowly takes away your ability to move, speak, and eventually breathe. When Stanford researchers met her, she could barely communicate, maybe a word or two per minute using eye tracking software. Imagine trying to have a conversation at that speed. How was your day? That would take like 5 minutes. Enter the Stanford Speech BCI system. They implanted arrays into Pat's motor cortex, the area that would control speech if her muscles still work. The AI learned to decode her intended words directly from brain signals. The result, 62 words per minute. That's a 60x improvement. That's fast enough for actual conversations. Pat can now chat with her grandkids, tell her husband she loves him without it taking 5 minutes, and participate in family discussions. She's not just communicating, she's living again. And here's one that really shows how far we've come. Philip O'Keefe, paralyzed by ALS, made history in December 2021. He became the first person to post on Twitter using only his thoughts through Synchron's Stentrode system. His tweet, "Hello world." Short tweet, "Monumental progress." A short tweet that represents 20 years of research, millions of dollars in development, and one man's determination to connect with the world again. If that doesn't give you goosebumps, check your pulse. But it's not just about paralysis. In China, they've got this system called Neo-BCI, and the results are mind-blowing. One patient with complete spinal cord injury showed a 100% success rate in object transfer tasks. Another improved their hand function scores by 26% in 9 months. And these aren't small improvements. In the world of paralysis recovery, a 26% improvement is like going from being unable to feed yourself to being able to hold a fork. It's the difference between dependence and independence. Meta-analysis, that's fancy talk for studies of studies, show that stroke patients using BCI-assisted therapy improve 3 to 4 times more than traditional therapy alone. We're talking about people who were told they'd never improve after the 6-month window, suddenly regaining function years after their stroke. And here's what really gets me. These patients aren't just passive recipients of technology. They're pioneers, actively shaping how these devices work. Every time Nolan thinks about moving his cursor, he's training the AI. Every word Pat attempts to speak teaches the system her unique neural patterns. They're not just using the technology, they're co-creating it. The long-term success stories are perhaps the most important. We've got patients who've been using BCIs for over 1,000 days with no significant degradation in performance. The Utah array has shown stability for up to 7 years in some patients. This isn't just experimental tech anymore, it's proven medical intervention. What strikes me most about all these stories is the emotion. When Nolan talks about playing games with friends again, when Pat describes talking to her grandchildren, when Dennis calls it the coolest video game ever, they're not talking about the technology. They're talking about being human again, about connection, independence, and dignity. These aren't just patients, they're pioneers, and their courage is paving the way for millions more who are waiting for their chance to reconnect with the world. So how do you manufacture something so complex with the precision, quality, and sterility of a device that will be implanted into your brain? Well, buckle up, because this is where the rubber meets the road, or should I say, where the electrode meets the neuron. See, it's one thing to build a brain implant in a pristine research lab with a team of PhDs hovering over every component. It's a completely different beast to manufacture thousands, eventually millions of these things with absolute perfection. Because let's be real here, when your product literally interfaces with someone's brain, good enough isn't good enough. We're talking about zero defects, zero, zip, nada. Let me put this in perspective. Your average smartphone has about a 2 to 3% defect rate. That's considered pretty good in consumer electronics. Now imagine a 2% defect rate in brain implants. That's 2 out of every 100 people potentially having their minds scrambled because of a manufacturing hiccup. Not exactly a risk anyone wants to take, right? This is where cloud-based manufacturing execution systems come in, and why I'm so fired up about this. And MES is like the mission control for manufacturing. It tracks every single step, every component, every test, every person who touches that product. But for BCIs, we're taking this to a whole new level. Think about what goes into one of these devices. Neuralink's implant has 3,072 electrodes. Each one has to be perfect. The biocompatible coating has to be flawless. One tiny crack, and you could have an immune response. The hermetic seal has to last for decades inside the hostile environment of the human body. The electronics have to survive at body temperature, bathed in conductive fluid for potentially 20 plus years. And here's the kicker, each device might need to be slightly customized for each patient. We're not making millions of identical widgets here. We're making personalized medical devices that interface with the most complex and individual organ in the human body. This is where cloud-based manufacturing execution systems become absolutely critical. Every single brain implant needs a complete digital birth certificate. Where did the materials come from? Who assembled it? What were the temperature and humidity conditions during assembly? Which version of the software was loaded? Which specific calibration was used? But wait, it gets more complex. These devices need software updates. Imagine you got thousands of people walking around with brain implants, and then you discover a bug in the code. You can't exactly ask them to bring their brains in for service, right? You need to push updates wirelessly, and you need to track exactly which version each patient has. One wrong update to the wrong device could be catastrophic. Cloud-based MES systems enable this level of tracking and control. They create what we call a digital thread that follows the device from raw materials through manufacturing, implantation, and the entire life cycle in the patient's brain. If something goes wrong, we can trace back every single step. Let me give you a real-world example. Say a patient experiences an unexpected side effect. With a cloud-based MES, we can instantly see, was their device from the same batch as others with the issues? Was it manufactured on the same equipment, by the same team, using the materials from the same supplier? We can identify patterns in minutes that would have taken months to uncover with traditional paper-based systems. And here's something that keeps me up at night, cybersecurity. These devices are wirelessly connected. They're sending and receiving data. A cloud-based MES provides the security infrastructure to ensure that only authorized updates reach these devices. We're talking about military-grade encryption for your thoughts, people. The regulatory aspect is huge too. The FDA doesn't mess around with implantable devices, and for good reason. They want to see every piece of documentation, every test result, every deviation from the standard process. A cloud-based MES automatically generates and maintains this documentation. What used to take weeks in paperwork now happens automatically, in real time. Quality control for BCIs are insane. We're talking about class 100 clean rooms. That's fewer than 100 particles per cubic foot of air. For reference, a typical office has about 1 million particles per cubic foot. One speck of dust could cause a catastrophic failure. The MES monitors environmental conditions 24/7 and can shut down production instantly if anything goes out of spec. But here's what really excites me about cloud systems: scalability. Right now, these companies are making tens to hundreds of devices per year. But there are millions of people who could benefit from BCIs. To meet that demand, we need to scale up production massively without sacrificing quality. Cloud-based manufacturing execution systems make this possible by enabling multiple manufacturing sites to operate under the same quality standards, sharing best practices and real-time data. We're also talking about supply chain complexity that makes aerospace look simple. The biocompatible materials often come from specialized suppliers in Europe. The semiconductors might come from Taiwan. The assembly might happen in the US. Coordinating all of this requires real-time visibility across the entire supply chain. And let's not forget about personalization. Future BCIs might be customized based on individual brain scans. The MES would need to track not just the physical device, but also the patient-specific software configurations, calibration data, and neural network training parameters. It's personalized medicine on steroids. This isn't just about making manufacturing more efficient, it's about making these life-changing devices safe, reliable, and accessible to everyone who needs them. Because at the end of the day, the best brain implant in the world is useless if we can't manufacture it safely at scale. The cloud-based manufacturing execution systems are the unsung heroes that will make the BCI revolution possible. It's not sexy like the implants themselves, but without it, we're stuck making boutique devices for a lucky few instead of transformative medicine for millions. Okay, folks, it's time to address the elephant in the room because we need to have a serious conversation about where this technology is heading, and it's not all sunshine and restored mobility. Let me start with a question that keeps ethicists up at night. Where exactly do we draw the line between restoration and enhancement? When Nolan uses his Neuralink to play chess, that's restoration, right? He's regaining an ability that he lost. But what happens when his BCI-assisted chess playing surpasses what he could do before his accident? What if he becomes a grandmaster? Is that still medical treatment, or have we crossed into enhancement territory? And here's where it gets really dicey. Neuralink's stated mission, and I'm quoting here, is to create a generalized brain interface to restore autonomy to those with unmet medical needs today and unlock human potential tomorrow. Unlock human potential tomorrow, that's enhancement talk, folks. Think about it. Right now, BCIs are for people with paralysis, ALS, stroke damage, clear medical needs. But Elon Musk has been pretty vocal about his end goal, achieving symbiosis with artificial intelligence. He's not talking about helping paralyzed people play chess. He's talking about upgrading healthy brains to keep pace with AI. Let's play this out. Fast forward 10 years. BCIs are safe, reliable, and can genuinely enhance cognitive function. Maybe they provide instant access to the internet directly in your brain. No more Googling. Just think a question and know the answer. Now imagine you're applying for a job. Your competition has a BCI that lets them process data at superhuman speeds. And you're still running on regular old biological neurons. Who gets hired? And what if you say, well, I'll just get an implant too? What if you can't afford the $100,000 procedure? Or what if your insurance doesn't cover cognitive enhancement? We could be looking at the creation of two distinct human classes, the enhanced and the unenhanced, the augmented and the naturals, the connected and the disconnected. It's inequality on a scale we've never seen before because we're not talking about differences in wealth or education, we're talking about differences in cognitive capability. But wait, it gets even thornier. Let's talk about neural privacy. Right now, your thoughts are the last truly private space you can have. Nobody can read your mind, but BCIs will change that. The devices are literally reading your neural activity, and that data has to go somewhere. Colorado already has passed a law protecting neural data, and Minnesota has a proposed law, but currently, we're way behind the curve here. What happens when your employer wants to monitor your focus levels through your BCI? When insurance companies want to access your neural patterns to assess risk? When law enforcement wants to subpoena your thought data? And I haven't even mentioned brainjacking yet. Yeah, that's a real term now. We're talking about the possibility of hackers gaining access to your brain implant. Imagine someone remotely controlling your movements, accessing your thoughts, or even implanting false memories. Sounds like science fiction, but cybersecurity experts are already warning about these vulnerabilities. And here's a fun ethical pretzel for you. Patient autonomy. We pride ourselves on informed consent in medicine, right? But how can someone truly consent to a procedure that might fundamentally change who they are? Some BCI patients report feeling like different people after the implantation. If the device changes your personality, your decision-making, your very sense of self, did the original you really consent to becoming this new person? And what about kids? If BCIs can treat conditions like severe epilepsy or developmental disorders, do parents have the right to make that choice for their children? What if those kids grow up feeling like their authentic selves were altered without their permission. The international community is scrambling to keep up. UNESCO is developing neural rights frameworks. The OECD has published principles for responsible neurotechnology. But honestly, we're making this up as we go along. The technology is moving faster than our ability to govern it. Companies are already developing brain GPT models trained on aggregated neural data. Think about that. AI systems learning from the collected thoughts of thousands of people. Who owns that data? Who controls those models? What happens when AI trained on human thoughts becomes better at predicting human behavior than the humans themselves? And here's the really scary part. We might not have a choice about adoption. If enhanced humans consistently outperform unenhanced ones in the job market, in education, in creative fields, the pressure to upgrade becomes enormous. It's like smartphones. Remember when they were optional? Now try functioning in modern society without one, and see how well that worked out for children and teenagers. BCIs could follow the same path, but with much higher stakes. Some philosophers argue we have a moral obligation to enhance ourselves if it reduces suffering and increases well-being, but others warn that we're playing God with human nature itself. The transhumanists are popping champagne while the bioconservatives are sounding the alarm bells. What worries me most is the speed of this transition. We had centuries to adapt to the printing press, decades for the internet, years for smartphones. But BCIs, we might have just a few years between experimental medical device and mandatory for competitive employment. That's not enough time for society to figure out all the rules. So what can we do? We can't put this genie back in the bottle, nor should we, given the incredible medical benefits. But we need to start having conversations now before the technology becomes ubiquitous. We need ethical frameworks that protect human agency while allowing for the innovation. We need regulations that prevent discrimination against the unenhanced. We need to ensure that these technologies reduce inequality rather than amplifying it. Because at the end of the day, we're not just talking about fixing broken brains. We're talking about the future of human nature itself. And that's a conversation we all need to be a part of. All right, we've danced around this topic enough. Time to dive into the deep end of the pool. The merger of artificial intelligence and human brains. And folks, this isn't some far-off sci-fi scenario. This convergence is happening now, and it's about to accelerate faster than a Tesla in ludicrous mode. Let me blow your mind with something. Every modern BCI is already using AI. It's not optional, it's essential. Remember those 30,000 samples per second of brain data I mentioned? No human could possibly decode that in real time, but AI is crushing it. Here's how it works right now. Machine learning algorithms are sitting between your neurons and the computer, acting as universal translators. They're learning unique neural patterns, adapting to the way your brain encodes move left versus how someone else's brain does it. It's personalized AI trained specifically on your thoughts. And the compression rates are insane. Neuralink is achieving 200-to-1 compression. That's like taking a movie file and squishing it down to the size of a photo while keeping all the important information. This is only possible because AI can identify which neural signals matter more and which are just noise. But here's where it gets really interesting. Current BCIs are mostly one-way streets with a little bit of feedback. Your brain sends commands, the computer just obeys. But the next generation, we're talking about true bidirectional communication. Your brain talks to the AI talks back. Imagine this, you're trying to remember something, maybe where you left your car keys. Instead of racking your brain, you send a query to an AI assistant connected directly to your neural implant. Your AI searches through your digitized memories, finds the relevant information, and feeds it back directly into your consciousness. No screen, no sound, just sudden knowledge appearing in your mind. Or, let's say you're trying to solve a complex problem at work. The AI can analyze the problem, generate potential solutions, and present them directly to your brain's decision-making centers. It's not making decisions for you, it's augmenting your own cognitive processes. You think faster, more creatively, more accurately. Synchron is already working with OpenAI to integrate large language models with their BCIs. Right now, it's mainly for communication assistance, helping paralyzed patients compose messages faster. But that's just the beginning. We're heading towards what researchers call neural lace, a seamless interface where you can't tell where your thoughts end and the AI assistance begins. Now let's talk about collective intelligence, because this is where things get really wild. What happens when multiple BCI-equipped brains can connect not just to AI, but to each other? We're talking about the possibility of a shared consciousness, hive minds, or at least unprecedented collaboration. Imagine a surgical team where the lead surgeon can share their visual perception and motor intentions directly with assistants, or researchers who could literally put their heads together, sharing thoughts and insights at the speed of thought, or artists collaborating by directly sharing creative visions. The bandwidth limitations are still real. We're nowhere near being able to transmit full conscious experiences. But emotions, basic concepts, motor intentions, that's within reach within the next decade. But here's the trillion-dollar question. What happens to human agency when AI becomes part of our cognitive loop? If an AI is constantly suggesting thoughts, filling in memories, and enhancing decisions, are they still your thoughts, your decisions? Some researchers are working on what they call cognitive firewalls, ways to maintain clear boundaries between your organic thoughts and AI assistants. Maybe AI suggestions appear with a distinct feeling, so you always know what's you and what's artificial. But honestly, we're in uncharted territory here. The potential for manipulation is staggering. If an AI can insert thoughts directly into your brain, who controls that AI becomes incredibly important. We're not just talking about targeted ads anymore, we're talking about targeted thoughts. The company who controls the AI in your brain could theoretically influence your decisions, your preferences, maybe even your beliefs. On the flip side, the potential benefits are equally staggering. Imagine having perfect recall of every book you've ever read, every conversation you've ever had. Imagine being able to learn new skills by downloading them, Matrix styles, as in, I know Kung Fu. Imagine by solving complex problems by combining your intuition and creativity with AI's computational power. We're already seeing the emergence of neural cryptography, encoding thoughts in ways that only your specific brain can decode. This could provide unprecedented mental privacy, where even if someone intercepts your neural signals, they can't understand them without your unique neural key. Long term, we might see the emergence of hybrid cognitive systems, where biological and artificial intelligence are so intertwined that they form something entirely new. Not human, not AI, but a third category of intelligence that combines the best of both worlds. Some futurists predict this will lead to a singularity, where enhanced humans and AI merge into a single superintelligent entity. Others warn about the loss of human essence, where we become mere nodes in a vast computational network. What fascinates me is how this changes the very nature of human experience. Right now, we're limited by the speed of our neurons, the capacity of our working memory, the biases of our thinking. AI integrations could overcome all of these limitations, but in doing so, do we stop being human and become something else entirely? The timeline is aggressive. Within 5 years, we'll likely see BCIs that provide real-time AI assistance for specific tasks. Within 10 years, more general-purpose AI integration. Within 20 years, we could be looking at humans who are more artificial than biological in their cognitive processes. The companies developing these technologies aren't slowing down to consider the implications. They're in a race to be first, to capture the market, to define the future. And honestly, that future is coming whether we're ready for it or not. So the question isn't whether AI and brains will merge. That's already happening. The question is, how do we ensure that this merger enhances human flourishing rather than replacing it? How do we maintain our humanity while transcending our biological limitations? Because make no mistake, we're not just upgrading our brains, we're potentially upgrading our species. And that's both the most exciting and terrifying prospect humanity has ever faced. Alright folks, we've taken quite the journey together. From paralyzed patients playing chess with their thoughts to the mind-bending possibilities of AI brain fusion. But before I let you go, let's talk about what's actually coming down the pike. Because I don't want you leaving this podcast thinking this is all pie in the sky stuff. This is real, it's happening, and the next decade is going to be absolutely wild. Let me paint you a picture of the next few years. By the end of this year, 2025, we're expecting to see about 50 humans walking around with various brain implants from these companies. Neuralink alone is planning 20 to 30 more implantations. Synchron is expanding their trials. Paradromics is about to join the human testing party. This isn't experimental anymore, it's becoming routine. By 2027, we're likely to see the first FDA approvals for commercial use. Not just clinical trials, but actual medical devices that your doctor would be able to prescribe. Imagine going to your neurologist after a spinal cord injury and having them say, well, we can do physical therapy or we can give you a brain implant that'll have you controlling computers within a week. That's not science fiction, that's your near future. The market projections are staggering. We're looking at a jump from today's $5 billion to potentially $15 to $20 billion by 2030. But here's what those numbers really mean: accessibility. Right now, these devices cost hundreds of thousands of dollars per patient, especially when you factor in surgery, training, and support. But as production scales up, the costs come down. By 2030, we could see BCIs priced like high-end hearing aids, expensive sure, but covered by insurance and accessible to middle-class families. And the technology improvements, hold on to your hats. Within 5 years, we'll see electrode counts jump from thousands to hundreds of thousands per device. Battery life extending from days to months. Wireless data rates that make today's system look like dial-up internet. And perhaps most importantly, standardization, meaning your BCI from company A will work with software from company B. Here's what really gets me excited, the democratization of this technology. Right now, you need to be near a major research hospital to even be considered for a BCI. But we're moving toward a future where your local hospital can offer this treatment, where the surgery is routine as getting a pacemaker, where the follow-up can be done via telemedicine from your living room. By 2030, we'll likely see BCIs for conditions we haven't even tackled yet. Depression, anxiety, PTSD, all potentially treatable by modulating brain activity in real time. Alzheimer's patients could have memory assistance devices. People with severe autism might have communication aids that translate their thoughts directly. And yes, by 2035, we'll probably see the first enhancement applications for healthy individuals. I know that scares some people, but here's how I see it. Every technology that starts as medical treatment eventually becomes available to everyone. Glasses were for vision problems. Now people wear them as fashion. Plastic surgery was for reconstruction. Now it's for aesthetics. BCIs will follow the same path. And that's okay, as long as we do it the right way. But here's what I really want you to take away from this episode. Hope. Real, tangible, scientifically backed hope. If you're listening to this and you have a loved one with ALS, there's hope. The technology that's letting Pat Bennett speak at 62 words per minute is improving every single day. If you're a stroke survivor who's been told you'll never improve, there's hope. BCIs are showing recovery is possible even years after an injury, breaking every rule of what we thought about brain plasticity. If you're paralyzed and dream of independence, there's hope. Nolan Arbaugh was just the first of many who will reclaim their agency through these devices. If you're worried about becoming obsolete in an AI-dominated future, there's hope. BCIs don't replace human intelligence, they augment it, keeping us relevant and capable in a rapidly changing world. And if you're concerned about inequality and access, there's hope there too. Because unlike many technologies that start exclusive and stay that way, medical devices have a track record of becoming more accessible over time. Insulin, pacemakers, cochlear implants all follow the path from experimental to essential to accessible. But hope without action is just wishful thinking. Here's my call to action. If you're in healthcare, start learning about BCIs now. Take the courses, attend the conferences. Be ready to offer this to your patients when it becomes available. If you're in technology or manufacturing, consider how your skills could contribute to make these devices better, safer, and more affordable. We need engineers, programmers, quality experts, and yes, MES specialists to help make this revolution happen. If you're an investor or business leader, look at this space seriously. The companies leading this charge need capital, expertise, and infrastructure to scale. If you're a policymaker, start crafting the regulations that protect people while enabling innovation. We need you to be proactive, not just reactive. And if you're just a regular person amazed by all this, spread the word, share this podcast, start conversations, because the more people who understand what's possible, the faster we can make it a reality. Let me leave you with this thought. We are living through the most profound transformation in human history. We're not just treating diseases anymore, we're expanding the definition of human capabilities. We're not just building tools, we're building bridges between minds and machines, between limitation and possibilities, between who we are and who we could become. Yes, there are risks. Yes, there are ethical challenges. Yes, we need to be thoughtful and careful. But the overwhelming truth is this. Millions of people who are suffering today will have options tomorrow that we can barely imagine. So the next time you see a headline about brain chips or cyborgs or the merger of humans and AI, don't just roll your eyes. Don't dismiss it as hype. Recognize it for what it is, the early chapters of humanity's next great adventure. In an industry where precision and compliance are paramount, Apprentice's Tempo platform offers a cutting-edge manufacturing execution system solution. It's cloud-based, mobile-first, operator-centric, with the most intuitive UI in the industry, making it perfect for today's dynamic pharmaceutical manufacturing environments and for the production of the world's most complex drug products. Whether you're working on groundbreaking cell and gene therapies, biologics, or small molecules, Tempo provides a fully validated MES system that's both powerful and easy to use. It streamlines your processes, ensures compliance, and adapts to your specific manufacturing needs. So get off of paper batch records and discover how Apprentice's Tempo Manufacturing Cloud can transform your operations by visiting us at apprentice.io. Attention industry professionals, revolutionize your manufacturing process with the Apprentice Tempo Manufacturing Cloud, a manufacturing execution system built to streamline your operations, boost efficiency, and ensure compliance all in one powerful platform. Experience the future of manufacturing with our free 30-day trial. Scan the QR code on your screen now to unlock a world of innovation. Don't just keep pace, set the tempo as an industry leader with Apprentice. That's all for Apprentice.io's Industry Insights. I'm Frank Maggiore. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for notifications when new episodes drop. Please comment on if you have any additional topics you would like for me to cover in this space, and we'll see you next week for more Industry Insights.